What is going on, guys? Just a little roster construction video between the Seattle Seahawks and the Los Angeles Rams. I think it's pretty straightforward, this slate, especially on FanDuel. I'm going to be playing a bit heavier than usual in cash games on FanDuel just because I think there's one lineup that's truly more optimal than all of the others in cash games, just because the way they priced everything kind of just made it so obvious on what to do. So yeah, obviously you want to play both quarterbacks if you can in a decently high scoring game. This game is the third highest on the entire week, but that's really not saying all that much just because none of these games are even projected for over 50 points this week. Pretty low scoring week. But anyways, in this game, I want to play these two quarterbacks just because they median averages of median projected outcomes for quarterbacks are going to be typically the highest. Unless there's like some special occasion, but with Russell Wilson and Jared Goff on the slate, it's kind of obvious that these are the two highest projected players. Obviously, in tournaments, wide receivers and running backs are going to have higher upside just because receiving yards, receiving touchdowns, rushing yards, rushing touchdowns are worth a lot more than passing yards and passing touchdowns. But at least with Russell Wilson, he can get it done on the ground, which gives me the slight edge to Russell Wilson in the MVP spot. But if you, like we'll talk about on DraftKings with some of the lineups, sometimes you need that extra $100. I don't mind going up from or going to Jared Goff, especially over there where you get the yardage bonus, which helps Jared Goff a lot. But anyways, yeah, you want to throw in both of these quarterbacks. Tyler Lockett at 11,000 is pretty embarrassing pricing. Don't know how that happened. DK Metcalf's only $8,000. I talked about it in my video earlier that he leads the team, or leads the league. Obviously the team, but he leads the league in our end zone targets at 7. And it's funny because the Rams are absolutely abysmal to defending touchdowns when teams get into the red zone. And on the flip side, the Seahawks are one of the best teams in the league in converting red zone possessions into touchdowns. And you could see it just by looking at the kicker. He's only attempted 3 field goals on the year through 4 games, although the Seahawks are averaging 26 points per game. So that's 9th in the league. So it makes me want to play guys like DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, guys that are going to be used all over the field, and then especially in the red zone. And then that's another reason why you want to have Russell Wilson in the captain spot, just because it correlates very well with Lockett and Metcalf. And then you want to bring it back with Todd Gurley. So if you have Jared Goff and Todd Gurley on your team, which by the way, Todd Gurley at 11,500 is pretty hilarious. This is by far the most optimal lineup that you can run this week. Obviously, there's different routes you can go in GPP, but with this team, with the Rams having Jared Goff and Todd Gurley, you can have every bit of every touchdown just because you're going to have it through the air with Jared Goff, and then if it's on the ground, it's likely going to be Todd Gurley. I doubt Malcolm Brown gets that much work unless we receive news tomorrow that since it's a short week, we could see more Malcolm Brown than usual. But until I hear that, I'm still going to stick with Todd Gurley, at least over here on FanDuel, where he's just priced way too low with Tyler Lockett. And then Jared Goff and Todd Gurley actually correlate pretty well together. We saw last week Todd Gurley had 7 catches on 11 targets. They're obviously using him more and more each and every week. So if the trend continues, Todd Gurley is just an absolute smash play. And like I said earlier, correlates very well with Jared Goff. So this is my favorite lineup. If you want to get a bit contrarian but still be fine for cash games, if you don't trust Jared Goff or if you don't trust Todd Gurley, you can go with 2 of their pass catchers in Cooper Kupp and Brandon Cooks. Or and then upgrade Tyler Lockett to Chris Carson. I think this is another route that's super interesting. It has a lot more upside in GPPs, but I think it is fine for cash games. If I were to rank the Rams receivers, it would go Cooper Kupp, and this is not including money, but Cooper Kupp, Brandon Cooks, then Robert Woods. Robert Woods has a lot worse matchup than Brandon Cooks, and I think Brandon Cooks has an opportunity to eat this game. So yeah, those are my rankings of those guys. If we go over here on DraftKings, it is a bit trickier in what you want to do, but I found if you really want to be safe in cash games, and have every bit of every touchdown. One of the safest routes you can go is playing both kickers, throwing Jared Goff in the captain spot, play Russell Wilson, and then play Gurley and Chris Carson. You have both quarterbacks, both running backs, and both the running backs receive. Even Chris Carson, I think you can expect 3 to 4 targets every week. I know Penny is back. We'll see. He should be a full go, but I expect Chris Carson, like I said earlier, to play 65-70% of the snaps. He's their guy. The coaching has shown a ton of confidence in him, despite him struggling with the fumbles the previous 3 weeks before last one. And so I think this is one of the safest lineups you can get. But there's a bunch of different routes. I think in cash games you want to end up getting Jared Goff and Russell Wilson, but if you were to pick one, it would be Russell Wilson. And with these Rams games, I almost took down a GPP in the last Rams game when they were playing against Cleveland. Just because on the road, Jared Goff isn't necessarily the best, but I know they're going to pass a ton, so you can stack these receivers, and this is what I did. I didn't even play Jared Goff yet. I played a ton of the receivers. I played all 3 of the big guys of Cooper Kupp, Robert Woods, Brandon Cooks, because they're each going to get their targets. They're each going to get their yardage, but the touchdowns really just don't really fall for Jared Goff sometimes when he's on the road. And I could somewhat see that happening this game, so you can make a guy like Brandon Cooks captain, Cooper Kupp, maybe throw in Everett, who I preferred to Tyler Higbee just because he ran 50 snaps to Higbee's 39 last week, and then ran 42 routes compared to 25 routes for Higbee. His stats all of the Rams stats are pretty inflated from last week because they ran just a million plays. I believe they ran 89 plays with including penalties. Jared Goff had an absurd 68 pass attempts. That's not going to happen. He's going to have somewhere around the 40 range, and I expect Russell Wilson to be around the 30s, maybe a little higher, 30 to 35 range, but his attempts are a lot more efficient. So you could get Russell Wilson, and then you can pair him up with maybe DK Metcalf, and then get up to a guy like Chris Carson, and then you can – that's just a higher upside team. But you want to make sure that these are correlated well with how you think the game script's going to go. If you think the game script is going to be sloppy just because it's a Thursday night game, which tend to be lower scoring games just because they're on 4 days rest rather than a full week, you can play the defenses. And then if you expect games to be low scoring, you don't necessarily want these quarterbacks. You're going to want the guys who are going to be heavily involved in the passing game is going to get the most catches, the most production. So if you play both these defenses, you're going to want to play like maybe a guy like Cooper Kupp. So even if Jared Goff has a bad game, which he's had before, he's had these games where he scored 10 points. See, look, he scored 10 points week 1, but I think I remember Robert Woods had 16.6 points. So if you expect the game to be a bit lower scoring, or if you don't think Jared Goff is going to succeed, play the defenses, hope for some turnovers, and then hope for the high production guys like maybe Tyler Lockett, and then you can pair him with the running backs as well. Maybe not Chris Carson. Well, you can expect some rushing touchdowns from Chris Carson or Brandon Cooks. See, all of these guys are going to get a ton of catches, and just hope for a lower scoring game, and it's going to leave $1,200 of salary on the table, which is going to make your team super, super contrarian. And if you're trying to take down something in the showdown slates, you need to be extremely contrarian. But anyways, that's pretty much just my thoughts on the slate. We're going to want to look for the news on Penny and Gurley, see how much work they're going to end up getting. We're probably going to get some news. But NBA starts tomorrow, so if you guys want to hop on that, feel free to. We'll be in the Discord chat all day, and I will be live streaming for this slate. So if you want to ask me any questions, I will be there to answer any of them. But yeah, let's get this money, guys. I think this is a good slate to take advantage of. Till next time, peace.